All right. So I'm going to turn my camera off because I have dual monitors and you're just going to see the side of my head, and that's not fun. Okay. So if you are new to Canva or if you've been playing around with Canva for a long time, either way, we're going to be able to kind of get you up and moving and going. I start off with some basic things and I roll into creating content, using the AI features and some of the other features on Canva. Some of the stuff is new. Some of the stuff they've moved around. I do have the pro version. I strongly recommend the pro version. If you're a nonprofit, you get a discount, or I think it might be even free. If you're a teacher, I think you get it for free. So it's definitely worth the investment, especially if you are responsible for creating any like quick short content that needs to be turned around. It definitely gives you the opportunity to not start with a white space. And they have tons and tons and tons of templates, and all you have to do is kind of go in and personalize it, and you are in a much better or more advanced space. I used to use Adobe all the time, and went to Canva to help somebody with a project and just kind of never looked back. I still use Adobe for a couple of clients, but Canva is definitely the space that I truly love the most. And I feel like is easiest. It has a, much smaller learning curve. So we will get started. So what it will look like if you have the pro version is you will be able to see this brand hub. If you don't have it, you'll have like a little crown right there that'll be lit up. That way you kind of know which version you have. When you start with Canva, and if you've already started, I always say go back into your brand hub, because this will make your life so much easier than if you were trying to start from scratch or start with a template, because all of your stuff will sit in this brand hub. So when you go into your brand hub, it used to be brand kit, and they're changing it to brand hub, and they're giving you additional options. So you want to start with add new. And then I'm going to do a mock CPR business. And then what you want to do is you want to immediately add your logo. This will take the biggest burden off of you. So I just pulled an image off of the internet. Part of the reason I like this image is because it has a bunch of different colors. If you have an organization where you have your primary colors that you use, and then maybe each program has a different set of colors or a subset of those colors, this is a great way for you to go in and add those additional color palettes. So I'm just going to keep the ones that it found from my image here. I'm just going to change the name so that I know that this is my primary set of colors. And so let's say I wanted to add a second
go to her house.
or a second round of colors for programs, or maybe you have like an annual event or something like that that has different colors. You're simply just going to add this here, hit add new color, and then pick the colors that you already know. If you need to add another image, you can add another image and pull those colors from that as well. I'm just going to pick something pretty bright and not on, let's see. Okay, here is something that is new. They used to only have like 3 font options, and now they have kind of all of your font options that you would use pretty much in any type of copy, which is great because now you don't have to guess which size or which font or whatever that looks like. Just go in and pick the ones that work. I'm just going to pick random ones. If you want to upload your font, you can upload it here as well. Heading. Then for quote, I'm going to pick something else. Courtney, body, go the sands. Okay. This is of great value because when you start to produce content, it will default to whatever your fonts are. So you can always go in and rename it. So like if you have multiple programs or if you have different fonts for different types of copy, right? So if you have specific fonts that you like to use for Instagram versus LinkedIn, you can go in and actually change the name of the font so you know what it is when you're building your content out. This is another new feature that I highly, highly recommend. It allows you to add photos, graphics, and icons. So if you had your branding done by like a graphic designer, typically they are going to give you a branding board that has icons on it. If not, you can actually come back to this later and build your icons in Canva. If you have photos that are like signature photos for your organization, maybe it's like your building or, you know, something that represents who you are. So like maybe you do an annual walk or golf event or something like that, and you're going to use certain photos all the time. Here's a place for you to add those images so that they're quick, easy, readily available to you whenever you need them. The graphics are for if you do like any texture or layers in your images, you now have the opportunity to put all of that stuff in one place. This is also great, let's say if you needed help hiring somebody or getting an intern or a new team member, they can easily come to this branding hub and get all this information. So it just kind of puts everything in one place. It's easy for people to access. It's easy for you to change or add. And so I always say, if you have not built out your brand hub, make that like your go-to thing to do today, because you'll see throughout the training, you know, the availability for me to use it and what that looks like as we build out content. All right, so I'm just going to go with the fonts and the color palettes, and then I have, you know, what I'm considering the logo. Just make sure it's a good quality image, if at all possible. If you can get it right from like the person that, you know, produced the logo and get a high quality one, that's the one that you want to have. Try not to pull it like from your website, like don't copy paste it from your website because you want a high quality one. Okay. Any questions about the branding hub before I move on? All righty, we'll keep it moving. So, and you can see that I now have the branding hub down here as one of my brand kits. So when you are first, oh, can it be shared with the team? Yes, you would invite them. You would keep your branding kit in a folder, Nancy, and then you would invite that person to that folder. So when we were doing it, yeah, you can add it to a folder, and then you would just invite that person to a folder. Okay. So we just did like a branding hub, right? And that kind of is great as we move through. My next suggestion is that you go in and you create your own branding board. This is important because the thing that sets you apart from other people is people being able to recognize your brand, your imagery, your fonts, your colors, all that stuff. And sometimes when we're creating, especially if we're creating, like if you do like awareness days or months, sometimes we get a little caught up in whatever that looks like, right? So if for 4th of July, you're probably going to have a lot of red, white, and blue. However, those might not be your brand colors. So, or you are posting images that are not kind of with the aesthetic of your brand. And so a branding board will help you stay in alignment with that aesthetic. It's also a great tool, again, for sharing because the branding board comes with all the information that has your logo, your font, your color codes, all that stuff on there. Yes, the meeting will be recorded and it will be sent out. I'm going to share the link before we get off of where we're going to hold them all. And then you guys are going to get an email where it's recorded and where it's sitting at. No worries, Lindsay. All right. So to build your branding board, super simple. You're just going to put in the search branding board. And you should see some sample templates kind of like this. And just pick one because once you open up a template, you'll be able to change it around. Oh, not that time. Let's try that again. Here we go. So here's just some examples of what a branding board looks like. The reason I say this is important is because when you have images like this that match your aesthetic and you start creating content, the minute that your content doesn't match your aesthetic, you will know, right? And so there's a lot that goes into your imagery. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how you can make sure that you're staying within your aesthetic. I'm going to go with, let's go with this one today. So we're going to use this to, kind of as our faux business. As soon as you open up a template or a new project, you want to go ahead and make sure you name it. Because if you don't, you will be struggling for a very long time trying to figure out what was it, because it has the random name of whatever the template is or the template owner is. So now that I have this, I want to make sure that I'm using my colors, my CPR colors, right? So I'm going to hit just any of these color codes or blocks, change the color, but I'm going to go here where there's a little drop down and I'm going to find that color brand. And now look, all of my colors are here for me. So I don't have to guess like which colors are supposed to be here. I can pick my primary colors. I'm going to put this one for this green. And then scroll down, there's a thing that says change all. So any greens that are in a color block, I'm going to change it to that light purple. And then I'm going to go in and let's say I'm going to pick this one and I'm going to change it to this green. I'm going to do a change all again. And then the same goes for text. You can hover over it. Your color palette is still here. Going to change it, hit change all. So you see the value almost immediately of making sure you build out your brand hub, because now you don't have to guess. Now you don't have to figure out or remember which color is what. It's automatically there for you and you can kind of move through your design much quicker. Couple things to keep in mind when you're creating this, you do need to change the color codes on here. And the easiest way to do that is just highlight the color that it is. I always hit plus. Oops. Let's try that again. And you can see it right there, right? The color code right below the number or right below the block. If you need a different variation of that, you can hit the color and you can see it keeps you in kind of the color scheme. So if I need to move it over, change it, make it darker, whatever, you have not lost anything. Just go back and it'll put it back to the color that you want it to be at. But that's just so you know that whatever color's here, it's not automatically gonna match up. Always keep your fonts in here. It's important that you know like which ones you're going to use for what. I like this branding board because it actually tells you what your fonts are and what they would look like. So here's my heading, subheading. And this would be what I would change to your primary image. So back when we were doing the branding hub, there was the opportunity to upload that primary image. That would be this. Your designer, if you have a designer, should have created an alternate logo for you. Usually you have your full color logo, you have your full color logo with no backing, no white backing, and then you have your alternate, so black and white or grays, or if you need to do them in different colors or versions, you have those alternate logos as well. This just kind of keeps you, again, in that aesthetic that you need. So one of the reasons that I always say make sure that you're doing your imagery on your branding board is as you start to create content and you want to pull from different things. Let's say I'm going to say woman. Like I have a certain aesthetic here, right? So let's say I wanted to pull this in. I'm just going to use this as a quick example. We can immediately see that is not the same aesthetic, right? So when I create content for a client, I first pull up this branding board so that as I'm creating content, I can always flash back and be like, that doesn't give the same vibe as the other images that we looked at. If you want to get really deep into it, some people even have like images should be centered or right or left so that they can have text like coming down the side here or always have text at the bottom. It seems small, but once you produce about 20, 30 images, it helps promote the alignment and the aesthetic of your brand. So if you have the opportunity, if you're not there yet, it's okay. But as you start to move into creating content, you'll be able to see how the aesthetic plays a big role. So even if you're talking about something different each time, the way it looks will be a big deal. And my favorite example is like Walmart and Target, right? Like they're both big box brands. They both have pretty much like whatever you think of you need for your house, you can walk in and get it. And so most people understand, however, that you have an expectation when you walk into Walmart and you have a different expectation when you walk into Target. It's the aesthetic that makes it so much different, right? It's how they set the store up. It's the color codes that they use. It's the way they display things. The aesthetic is what makes you feel like one is better than the other or different than the other, or gives you different types of vibes. And so that's what your branding board can do for you. Okay, any questions about the branding board before we start to look at how to build content? Okay, keep it moving. Find the branding board that works for you. Oh, wait, the link would be, oh yeah, sorry. So find the branding board that works for you so that you know how to kind of manipulate it so it looks and feels good. So I'm just going to show you a couple of examples. And then, so throw a couple of templates up there. There is a grid view down here at the bottom. And then you can kind of get an idea like, that does or doesn't kind of represent us. Keeping in mind that you're going to change the colors and things like that, that's okay. What's important is that you realize like, okay, I like things really simple and clean. This is probably the best branding board for me. or I like a lot of things happening, this is probably the best branding board for me. If you have a really specific, imagery that you want to go with, start off on a good foot, pick a branding board that's easy to change up the colors. If you only have 3 colors, don't pick a branding board like this, because then you'll feel like it's incomplete or you don't have all the things that you need. Pick a branding board that's simple like this. If you have a lot of imagery that you do, so like heavy on Instagram, pick a branding board that gives you the opportunity to showcase a lot of that imagery, so that when you're reproducing your content, you don't have to like start from scratch each time. Any questions? All right, let me just put branding board. I'm going to leave this open. This is going to be the one that we use. So I'm going to delete the rest of these. I'm just going to hover and highlight and then trash, because I don't need them. And then I'm going to go back home. And now I'm ready to create some content. When you're creating content, I highly, highly recommend that you always start with the Instagram square image. It fits on every platform, and there's little work to change up the size, and I'll show you how to change up the size.
I guess maybe it is turned on.
And so, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, you're on there.
So, I don't know where.
Okay, so when you are starting, I always say start with a template. Start with a template that has the most stuff on it that you can remove. If you start with a template, I'm just going to use this one, there's not a lot that you can do with this template, right? Like, this is a great one-off post, but it's not a template that you want to start off using. Start with the template. I'll give you a hint. My favorite templates are real estate templates, because they often have the opportunity to do a lot of stuff with them. So if you're doing imagery, you can put a message in here. If you are talking about a bunch of different things or introducing people, you can move that around. If you are doing a lot of text in your photos, you can manipulate that as well. I'm going to go with this one just because I can do a bunch of stuff with it. And I'm going to show you that just because you started here does not mean that that's where you need to stay. So I'm going to keep this one as like, my primary one, but then I want to think about what type of messaging am I going to provide. So this one I can manipulate a bunch of different ways, but I want to add a couple more. I want to add something that kind of is a little bit more personal, where I can do one big image in the back and then just update the information here. I love this or that type of post because you get engagement when you do that. And infographics get a lot of engagement, or if you're going to do a carousel. So let's also do, let's see. Let's do this one. If you ever get to the point where you kind of run out of content or something to say, do like a faux, Q&A. And I just happen to love all of these right now. So these are the primary ones that I'm going to use. And obviously they're not in my color scope, right? Because we have like a weird brand, but I'm going to go back to my branding board and be like, yep, no, that's not it. Right? That's not it, because I know that I need certain things. Now I've got some of the green, but I want to make sure it matches. I'm going to start with this one, and then I'm going to show you how you can use the other ones as well. I like to create 30 templates when I go into do any type of content creation. So the way I do that is I just highlight it and then duplicate the page until I have an entire row of the same template. And then I go to the next one and I do the same thing again. And then you're like, I'm overwhelmed, there's too many tabs. There's a method to my madness. Okay. The reason I like to do 30 tabs is because I want to know that I'm going to get at least 30 posts. Now, if you're posting once a week, you're set for a long time. If you're posting 3 or 4 times a day, you're probably going to have to do this more often. But I like to create a template page so that I have something to pull from in 3 months from now. So the first round of 30 posts, I'm duplicating a familiar image to look a certain way so that when I go in to create my content for July or my content for August, I can kind of start in the same space versus starting with a blank page and having to like start over. So this one I always call my template. Okay. I'm going to go to this first one. I'm going to start changing colors. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all the color changes, but just enough so you kind of get the idea. Go in, change the color. Remember, I have my color palette here. I'm going to go with this color. I want all of them changed, and it changes it across all of the pages. So if you go any color that was like the one that I did, it has changed it. Okay. And I'm going to change my text. So here's the hub, right? My CPR hub. And I'm going to use porcelain for that. This is why I was saying change the name so you kind of have an idea of what your text is for. And I'll just leave those, but you get the idea, right? So let's say for this first one, I want to keep all 3. But for the second one, I just want to highlight one person. So now I have the same concept, but I've changed it a little bit. Maybe I want to put this over here. Or maybe I want to make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to hover and group it together so I can change the size. Bring it down in a corner. Now these are 2 different, looks, but it has the same aesthetic. You can always change the background. So this is where I'll flip back. Okay, I need a woman in green or some green fabric because that's kind of what we have going on in this imagery here. So when I change the background and I go to photos, I'm going to look for green fabric. And you can see there's a bunch of different versions. This silk, even though it might be pretty, does it match the imagery that I have? No, the imagery that I have is like linen, cotton kind of vibe, right? This is why I always say build your branding board, because that way you can go back and forth and say that matches, that doesn't match. So I'm going to go with, let's see. Let's go with this one. But I'm going to use it in the back and I'm just dragging it over. If I wanted to use a different one, I could just drag it over. In this, you have the white circle in the background. I'm going to ungroup it. And I'm going to change the color of that to kind of fit a little bit better. Put that back. And now I want to change this image here. And I'm going to go to woman in green. And like, this one like could fit because it's kind of that linen, right? If you get an image that doesn't fit into your circle or your grid very well, double click it. And then this little 4-corner arrow will pop up and you can move the image around. So I'm like, okay, this kind of is in our green. It's a woman, but let me just double check, would that fit into our aesthetic? Or sometimes what I'll do is this, I will copy it and then paste it over here. Just so I can be like, would this fit in here? Yeah, I think so, right? And obviously if you're pickier than that, then but you guys get the idea, right? So I'm like, yeah, that works. I'll leave that one in there. Then if I want to put messaging, I can put messaging here. I can do my primary messaging here. If I want to change my font, I can go back to my brand hub and it has my fonts already in here. So I'm going to change that one to title. If I want to make it bigger or smaller, I can do that here. And then I want to make sure that I name the page. So I'm going to say, meet Hannah, new HR VP, or whatever that looks like. Because when you start to save these things, especially if you save them as a zip file, this will be page 2 and you'll never know what page 2 is. And there's value in giving it a title. So make sure that you have a title in there for you to save it. Okay, so this is great. So I've introduced Hannah from HR. So now maybe I want to introduce everyone on the team. I am most likely going to have people get dressed in green, right? Because that's what I really want them to do. But sometimes that doesn't work. So maybe they're dressed in a white t-shirt. You could go in and just change the background to the green that you want it to be, right? So let me pull this background. I just switched the background to that. And I'm going to find all right. Let's do professionals because all right. So I want to bring in more people that are part of the team. Double click it. You can make it bigger. White shirt. Got some really wonky images here. Let's see. We'll do this one. Double click it. Make it a little bit bigger. Try and get the head size to be about the same if you can. And then let's do this one. Okay, these are great. However, they're missing some things, right? So like she has a different color background than he does, and she has actual people behind her. You're just gonna go in, hover over it, and then you wanna select edit photo. Go ahead and remove the background, that BG remover is background remover. And I'm gonna do that for all of them. So now I look a little bit more in alignment with, or the aesthetic kind of looks very similar. So I'm going to change this to like meet your team. And change the alignment. Move it over. And you're going to start building. And how do you know when you're done? You know you're done because you can see I have given it a name. I have changed the aesthetic to match my colors. And this is going to be what we like to call informational post, right? So that first row should be your informational post. This is your about me. This is my office hours. This is my how to contact us. This is any relevant information that you want kind of on auto repeat or is informational to your business, hours, email address, if you've moved to a new location, anything that would be on your about me page is going to be in your info line. This top row should be an evergreen post, should be, right, for the most part. I did meet the people, and you can still create that as evergreen. It might not be as relevant in 6 months from now, or maybe in 6 months you can say, happy 6-month anniversary, Hannah, because you were able to create that post, right? So your first line is always going to be informational about me, about my business, about what we do, about our services. This gives you the opportunity to have evergreen posts. You should have at least one evergreen post a week. Not everybody is going to see everything that you do. It might feel like a lot, but I promise you it's not. If you have one post about your office hours, if you have one post about your location, if you have one post about each different service that you provide, and kind of keep those posts going, that's going to be valuable. So if I go to a social media page and I'm scrolling through their posts, at some point, I should be able to see an informational post about their business or what they do or how they do it, so that I can kind of build credibility and trust. So that's the first space that you want to work on. The next space that I like to work on is what I call like a personal space, right? And so when you think about personal space, you think about like behind the scenes or hands-on or collaborations, right? Like you're taking your audience with you and what it is that you're doing. And this is across the board. So let's say you are service-based nonprofit and you are, doing a fundraiser for, let's say, food scarcity, and you're, showing images of, your organization picking up foods. Be careful. You want to be mindful that you're not like winning off of somebody else's defeat. So I always say show the collection of the food, but maybe not the distribution where the clients are at, because that can kind of get a little, cheesy and it feels icky. So show the collection of the food, show the people that you collaborated with the food, so on and so forth. So I'm going to use that example to pull another image. Now, if you have images, great. If you have images that don't reflect who you currently serve or represent or your organization, then use stock images, and I'm going to show you how. So let's go with the theme that we are collecting food for a food drive, right? Let's see. Sometimes we get lucky and we can find really stock images. Okay, so be mindful of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Be mindful that you're not kind of pivoting off of somebody else's circumstances. So like this one, maybe not, right? It kind of doesn't hold up any aesthetic. It kind of is a little bland. So we're not going to use that one. We're going to take that one out. If we decided to use this one, okay, it shows the volunteer. It shows what they're doing. If I don't want this text, I'm just going to remove it. Remember, I'm going to put whatever it is in here, like food drive, and then I'm going to put like the time. Again, because when you're saving them, you never know where the file will end up. Go ahead and get that information available. This line seems annoying, but these little lines like this is what will help you keep your aesthetic. I used to hate these lines. I would just immediately take them off. But when I look at, 10 or 15 images that kind of have this line or have the border, I like to do a border. because I never have a straight line. So thank goodness that they have the degrees on there, because otherwise it would be crooked like all the pictures in my house. All right. And then they do have these little red lines to help you stay clean and organized. Okay. So you see how like it seems like it's nothing, but sometimes just consistently always having these little lines or the same type of text overlay that builds into your brand. Now, when we look at our imagery, obviously our imagery doesn't have, or the photo doesn't have any green like we wanted. So some things that I might do is make all these lines green, make the text green, or make this box the green color that, you know, is within our kind of scope. There's actually a little bit of a green, oh, not really. And then if I'm like, no, I don't like that, I want to pull this green out, I'm just gonna go and copy it because I'm lazy. And I'm gonna drop it in the photo. And I'll take this one out. And I'll move this one in. And if you have layering that you need to take care of, you're just gonna go to where it says position. And you can move it back. And now I'm going to change the text. I'm gonna go to my hub and I'm gonna use this one. Make it smaller. And I'm gonna center it. And then this one would be all of my behind the scenes things. So whether it's coming up or it has passed, all my behind the scenes posts are going to be here. Okay, this is that personal line. How can you make what you do more personal? And this is not like me and my fuzzy slippers, unless of course that's your brand, but this is the get to know me space that you want to work in. Whenever you get short and you're trying to figure out what in the world can I post, go to your FAQs. So your FAQs are designed to represent you when you can't speak for yourself. So people scroll on social media when you are asleep or when you're busy or when you're working. And so how do you get the information out to them so that they're aware? When people start to ask you questions, whether it's in a chat or in person or email, start to fill up your FAQs. Obviously, keep with the brand, change the font. Remember when we built our brand hub, it talked about those icons. If this is not part of your icon, change the icon. If you need help with icons, you would just go to Element and simply put icons. So if you need to change it to anything different than what you have, or if you need to put like graphics. So whatever it is that you do that makes sense, you could do it. If you need to make it into like a photo, something that you're always going to have, you can do that as well. We're going to do a little AI. So we now have text to image. It's not perfect, and it really is kind of like a search bar, but it's a new feature, and I just want to show it to you really quick. So if I want to change something up, let's say I want to create something. I want to create a, let's just be very generic and see what we get. Icon for, let's do for Instagram. That, oh, I can't see Instagram, that has a black outline. Let's see if it gives us anything. So if you're looking for something and you're not getting it in the search, this option is available. So yeah, so it has some things, right? Well, what if I wanted to change it to something a little bit different? Maybe I want 3D. Maybe I want it to be like in a film. Maybe I want anime. It kind of gives you some options, but it's a work in progress, right? So let's just say that we want to use this as the icon in our FAQs, or it's close to our brand or whatever that looks like. You can always go in and edit the photo. So if you want to crop it, you can crop it. It's a square crop, or it's a border crop, meaning that you would have to go in and erase by hand the rest. And I'll show you how to do that too, because this comes up. Let me just add this so I can give you guys a clean space to see it. Edit photo. I want to do the background remover. Obviously it didn't do anything. Come on. I want to adjust it. I want it to be more on, you know, the side of the colors that I want it to be on. I want it to be darker. I want it to be lighter. You can go in and use the filters. So you're not stuck with any one thing. If I wanted to do the magic erase, this is what I was talking about with like getting rid of the border. I would just come in and brush over what I no longer wanted. So let's say you got a great image. Obviously, this isn't perfect. You got a great image, but there's somebody's hand and you want to get it out of there. You're just going to use the magic eraser. Try that again. And try and get it out of there. Not a perfect feature, but there are features there. If you have images that you want to blur, I just want to show you some of the things that you can do. You can blur the image. If you've ever taken a photo of like the team, but you wanted to put text overlay, this is a great feature for you to use. You can obviously make it more blurry than not. If you have people on your team that you don't want, let me go back to this one. If I have people on the team that I don't want them, you know, seen, or like their faces or anything like that, you can change your focus and the intensity of what you're blurring. I don't know what that was. Or I can blur her a little bit more. I can make it more blurry. So now I still have the real people, but you can't really tell who it is. Here's another tip. So I've blurred this version, right? Let me go back to that same photo. Now I'm going to crop it. And this is when you got to like really do some work on your images. If you don't, then don't worry about this. And I'm going to remove the background. Because I don't want their images on the thing, but I want hers. And then I'm going to play around with the resizing so that she now fits like a pop out. Right. So same image. I've got the people that I want blurred out. I've got the person that I want highlighted in there. That's just some of the tools that you can use so that if you, especially if you need to blur people out, it's a way to do it. Just double the layer in your images. All right, sorry. Back to the FAQs. Your FAQs should be something that you can pull that people always ask. The question that I get asked all the time when I do a training is, will this be recorded? So an FAQ that I could put out, so I'll post, here's the training, and then an FAQ afterwards would be, will the Copy and Canva training be recorded? Answer yes, here's the link of where it will sit, right? So those are some FAQs. Think about what your customers or clients or your audience is asking you. Also think about what you want them to know without feeling like cheesy, right? So if you have a price point on your material or your marketing or your services, or if there's a sliding scale for insurance, or what does that look like? What are your intake hours? This is a great place to put your FAQs at, because this way it is also kind of speaking for you, right? Your social media platforms are your voice when you're away from, being able to talk to your customer. I love to do a, this or that, or do or don't, because this is your opportunity for engagement. So I'll go really quickly on this. As you're building out, ways to engage with people, don't just leave it as text. Also add images. So are you a coffee person or a tea person, right? Do you prefer this type of sneaker or that type of sneaker? When you go grocery shopping, we're talking about food. Do you use this type of bag or that type of bag? Do you prefer Target or Walmart, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts? This is your opportunity to kind of show a little bit of your personality, to get people engaged. They might not see you or find you because of your business. They might see or find you because of your engagement image. So build out ways for people to engage. Do you like a to-do list? Do you like a long to-do list or short to-do list? Do you prefer a digital planner or paper planner, right? And try to connect it to whatever service or product that you provide. I think we've got a huge range of people on today. So whatever that looks like for you is powerful. And then you have your tips line. This tips line is important because this is your way to build carousels. This is also your way to build content or storytelling. So if you do 4 tips and the first one you remove, tips 3 through 4, then you can build that carousel. So the next one says tip number 2, and then the next one says tip number 3 and tip number 4. Now, if you are struggling with content, and this is where the AI part comes in. So let me just recap really quick. You have your about me. This is your information. This is your hard office hours, what we do, how we do it, services we provide, products we provide. Then you have your personal line. This is the who I am, what we do, how we do it, events coming up, opportunities to engage. Then you have I call it your customer service. These are the questions that people typically ask that you can have rotating and getting them out. This is your engagement line. Find a way to get people to engage. That's not a heavy relationship to what it is exactly that you do, but that you might catch somebody else. This is a great way for engagement and for reach, because other people would answer that, right? And then your 4 tips is a great way for you to be like the subject matter expert. So this is kind of like your subject matter expert line. This is how you build your credibility, your trust, your loyalty, because you're already telling people that you're brilliant in the space that you're in by giving them these tips or advice or, directions for them to follow. All right. Now let's talk about how do we get the content and how do we keep it going, because I don't know what to talk about. So first person to drop in the chat what your business does will be the example that I use. So if you drop in the chat what you do in your business. Everybody's like, nope, not sharing my stuff. Okay, office coordinator at church. Okay, let's work with that one. So let's say you want to talk about, let's see, reasons to participate in like group events at your church, right? And you're like, I don't know why people should come. It's great. I love my church, and so that's why you should come, right? So what most people get stuck on is the content creation part from a blank page. This is a new feature, well, kind of new feature in Canva. A lot of people have heard about ChatGPT and things like that. And it's a great way to have a starting point so you're not kind of stuck. So let me show you what I would do if I wanted to, and I'm just going to go with encourage people to participate in groups at our church. So I opened up, let me show you what I opened up. I opened up this doc hub right here. And I'm going to label it. And then I'm going to press this plus sign here because it gives me this thing called Magic Write. Magic Write is the AI component of Canva. And I'm going to put in there what I need it to do for me. So I want it to create a list of 20 reasons why people should join our church groups. So it doesn't seem great, right? But this is how you start when you do prompting. It's called prompt engineering. What you're doing is you're building a conversation with the AI. So I always say start with a list, start with 20 things. So 20 reasons why people should buy my product, 20 reasons why people should donate, 20 reasons why people should join our church groups. Hit enter, and then Canva AI will give you a list of 20. Now, Canva AI is not as sophisticated as some of the other platforms, but it gives you a starting point that you might not have had before, right? So I'm going to hit, okay, I got 20 reasons why people should join the church. Perfect. I can create social media posts from this. And let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to go up here where it says convert to presentation. And I'm going to get, I don't know why it keeps popping up even though I hit that. Let's keep going. And then I'm going to pick, you can pick your brand, right? Or another template if I want to keep it simple or if I want color, whatever that looks like. I'm just going to go with this one. And I get to see all those posts that Canva just gave me. So now I have 20 social media posts off of one request from Canva AI. Oh, I'm sorry, they call it Magic Write. And then I'm going to hit create my presentation. This gives you the header. Keep the header because when you go to look at your work in Canva, the first image is the one that is displayed. So always keep the title page, even though you're not going to use it to post. And now I have, let me put it in grid view for you. Now I have 20 social media posts done for me. Go in, always resize it, Instagram square, just resize, not resize and copy. And now they're all appropriate sizes. I don't have to really think about what to do or how to do it. Let me show you another thing. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get the social media out. I also gotta get the newsletter out or the blog out or whatever that looks like. I'm gonna take one of these. Let's see, I'm gonna take this one and I'm just gonna copy it. And I'm gonna go down a little bit further, hit the plus sign, Magic Write, and I'm gonna say, create a blog about, and I'm going to copy paste whatever that social media post was, and I'm going to put that in. Now it's kind of giving me a blog, right? But it gives me a starting point. So let's say I want to be a little bit more specific. I'll go in, Magic Write, hit Now I'm gonna do what we call prompt engineering. I'm gonna be more specific in what it is that I need. Create a blog post about, and I'm gonna copy paste, include the title, tagline, let's see, and 4 takeaways. So now I'm a little bit more specific because I want them to include the title, the tagline, 4 takeaways, and boop, what do you know? Look at what you have here. So you're like, okay, this is great and all, but you can copy paste this and put it into your next blog, or you can copy paste it and put it into your newsletter or whatever that looks like, or you can go to Convert. We're going to hit create my presentation again. I don't really need all the things, right? I just need the blog. I'm gonna go to remove all of these extra ones. Because I don't need them. And then I'm gonna go back to the grid, and then I'm gonna resize it. Instagram story. And now I've just created basically a video. Obviously, you're going to change the background to match your aesthetic, but you're going to save it as an MP4. And now you have a video, correct what's wrong, not, make the text bigger, change the imagery, things like that. But I think you guys get it. And then now you have a video that you can post on social media. So if you have a person in the background, you can change the person in the background. You can make those edits that way. But now you took from a prompt for 20 social media posts, you were able to literally from each post, you can create an Instagram story or a TikTok story, whatever that looks like in your world, for different platforms for people to be on, save it as a video, and you're done. All right, that was a lot, and we're over the hour. Thank you guys for staying that are staying. If you have questions, let's do it now. Can we do the hand raise so that I can kind of get them in order, some sort of fashion in order? No questions? What? Dun, dun, dun. You guys have me. You need anything? Now let me put in the link where we're going to keep these. And this was just a really quick, like, down and dirty, kind of fast, like here's some extra tools. We do have, some training that's a little bit more hyper specific so that it's much easier for people to like pick one thing that they're focused on or working on. And, those trainings happen often, but over the summer, maybe not quite as much. This is the site where all of the trainings will be stored at. So we do have specific ones. Like some people are like, I just need to use the AI feature. Like, how do I do the prompt engineering? So we have classes for that. And some people are like, I need to figure out how to get my, build a logo, like they're starting from scratch. And so we have different versions for different folks. You're on the email list with this registration. So whenever we have the next training or set of trainings, we'll be able to, you'll be able to see it. You'll see the invite for it. So. Any questions? If you're up to it, I don't have a meeting until 10, and I am happy to do a mock with you. If you want to drop your business in, we can do a mock, and then I can send you the link so that you have it.
BC, thank you so much for today's lesson. I
You're
learned
welcome.
a lot. I feel very enthusiastic, very excited to start using Canva the way you taught us today.
Love it.
But unfortunately, I have to jump up to another meeting.
No
so
worries, no worries.
if we can keep in touch via email or any other channel you left us here in the chat box, I will be very glad to keep in touch with you. Those one very marvelous tips.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anytime. And we do it each month. So each month looks a little different. It's a very casual setting, but laid back. So if you have any questions, I've dropped my email in there. Feel free to reach out. Okay. Anyone want to run through with their business? I have the time today. All right, well, I will give you guys back your day, your morning. Thank you so much for joining. The link, it takes usually about an hour or so for some reason for it to download. And so it should be up on YouTube and the website in about 2 hours from now. So you guys have an amazing week, amazing weekend coming up, and I hope to see you guys next month.